Good morning. Hey, what's going on out there? Robert Phoenix, broadcasting to you live from Austin, Texas. It's another great day in the neighborhood. Whoa, boy. Things are heating up on Terra, aren't they? And I'm not talking about global warming. Woo, there's a lot going on. We got the Paradise Papers, which I have not even really, cracked my head open to. That's some interesting material. Maybe we'll try to do something tomorrow, a little more in depth with the Paradise Papers, but there is a ton of stuff that's just swirling around right now. It's kind of crazy and a bit amazing. I'm sure many of you are following the Q clearance stuff over on Tracy Beans and another sites. That's through Paul on 4chan, and it's, again, we talked about this yesterday and how the trade-off for arresting all these so-called perps and or perps, they are not so-called, but they are, and getting a little martial law on the side, is it really worth it? I don't know. We have to be, we've got to this is really the cool thing about the time we're living in now. Can I just lay it out for you, okay? Now I talked about this on Randy and Emily's show, Off Planet. They've got a new episode up, by the way. We are in a process of deep learning, just like AI is deep learning. We are deep learning too. This is really an incredible process. It's very hard to see because we're in it, right? It's like a fish who's in a fish tank. They don't really know they're in the fish tank. That's just their medium. We don't really know that we're in this deep learning process. Now, some of it could be defined. Well, maybe we're being mind controlled, or maybe we're being programmed. I'm not necessarily sure that's the case, but there's something very interesting going on, and something very exciting going on, and something very dynamic, and we're accelerating our ability not only to see these events and these patterns that are happening around us. This is a laboratory. We are in a laboratory right now, okay? But it's giving us an opportunity to think 3, 4, 5 steps ahead. And this is really the cool thing, right? By the way, somebody posted a link yesterday on the YouTube channel that a driverless shuttle bus crashed. I tell you right now, if I had an applause button on my sound effects again, I'd hit that thing hard, maybe 2 or 3 times, okay? I think it's great. Sorry. I don't think it's bad to... Well, look, I hope nobody got hurt, first of all. I really don't wish anybody to get hurt, but I don't think it's poor form to wish ill will on a robot. I mean, I saw Alex Jones do it about 2 weeks ago. He was ripping on Sophia and just talking about, I want to take a baseball. I mean, think about that. I mean, you can get away with that in a weird way, right? It's kind of like the revenge porn of Inglourious Bastards, only instead of Nazis, it's robots. So, anyway, that was really interesting. That shuttle bus. And where was it? I believe it was, in Las Vegas, right? Las Vegas. There's some strange shit going on in Las Vegas. We're going to get into that today. Good friend William from here in Austin and also on Facebook passed along something to me that I want to read, because it's starting to... We talked about this yesterday a little bit, and this is some of the stuff that is beginning to percolate on that Q clearance series of threads that Tracy Beans has been talking about. Anyway, it has to do with what's going on in Saudi Arabia, and it has to do with what happened in Las Vegas. And remember, yesterday I was talking about how Ali Walid, that guy owned the upper floors of the Mandalay Bay, and who was there in the upper floors, of course, theoretically, was Stephen Paddock doing a gun deal. Okay, so we're gonna get into that a little bit, but I want to talk about the deep learning thing, because what we're trying to do now is, or not even trying, it's just happening. We don't even have to try. Once we attune our consciousness, and once we kind of get up to speed, and we have to watch out for, again, sort of these strange exits that lead us off into they lead us off into the sort of the deliverance areas of our minds and our consciousness, which may not always be bad. I mean, it can be interesting in those places, right? But if we can work with what's going on right now, I'm telling you, the collective IQ and the collective ability to get up to speed in a way that is really profound. Guess what it does? It rivals AI. It rivals AI. This is what's going on. We are going through our own acceleration process. Trust me on this. I know it, and I know it for a fact. And it's happening for people that are switched on, turned on, tuned in, as long as you're not being led off by some Judas goat like Alex Jones, taking you down a rat hole, watching out for Yemeni terrorists, getting on. I mean, this is just. I think that is completely. If you've been watching him on the show, it is completely irresponsible to get on there and start telling people to watch out because we're going to start to have Yemeni terrorist attacks, which are theoretically linking us to Iran. You've got it. I'm telling you right now, Alex Jones has turned a corner, and he's turned a corner in a way where he can never go back. He can never go back. Okay, he is leading people down a path that now David Knight's not a bad guy. I like David Knight. I think Rowan Schroyer is actually pretty funny and pretty smart. And outside of those two guys, Jones is dangerous. He's totally dangerous at this point. I'm sorry. I want to be supportive, and when he gets into the AI stuff, when he gets into some of the systems control things, he's still really, really good. But when he gets into pandering for war with Iran and war with North Korea, because his buddies over in Tel Aviv want him to, basically peddle that script, you got to jump. You just got to jump. I'm sorry. So I can't even watch him anymore. And that's happened really just over the last week, because I've been seeing this acceleration on his part to really push that narrative. And you know what? They may actually do something like that. They may have some terror attacks. It could be the Mossad. It could be these black cube characters. That's a really interesting story. If you have, man, this whole thing is just getting so. It's like this is it. We're in the final degrees of Saturn and Sagittarius, foreign intrigue, right? That's Sagittarius, and Saturn is like, here it is. This is the playbook. Here's the program. This is what's going on. Hardcore, look at it. I mean, even that thing with the Ronan Farrow, which was mind-blowing. The whole thing with Weinstein and the Black Cube. Maybe we get into that tomorrow. And if you've ever noticed in InfoWars, if you've ever noticed the symbol for InfoWars, it's always kind of turning in the right-hand corner. What is it? It's a black cube. Now, I'm not saying that InfoWars is connected to Black Cube, but maybe InfoWars is connected to Stratfor, which is connected to Black Cube as they share intelligence. I'm just throwing it out there, but it's still the black hypercube that is the symbol for InfoWars. It's an interesting kind of little thing. Let's turn it down there on the right-hand side of your computer screen. You go check it out, okay? So there's an amazing process going on because we're thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead now, right? And are they the right 2, 3, 4 steps? Maybe. But the fact of the matter is that we are being attuned to novel ways of looking at information and solving problems. Now, for a long time with the occult stuff and looking at it and breaking it down and seeing all the symbolism, I really felt like we were being initiated into a mystery school, and not always in a great way, by the way, because you can see the symbolism and you can break it down, and you could have your kind of manly pee hall, deconstructive moment, right? And a lot of people do that. I do it. It's there. After a while, it got really it stopped being interesting for me. Oh, there it is. There's the eye Horus. Oh, look at that. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's like. Of course, it's so blatant now. Do we really have to continue to point this stuff out? It's like that phase is over. Okay, we gotta take the game to another level. All right, you can use those symbols, and they're there. The patterns are there. You see them all the time. Oh, by the way, today is 11/9, right? Today is the day that Trump formally became president of the United States. I mean, not really formally. Formally in the sense that Hillary Clinton in that shit show that she decided that she wanted to lay on the American people with her and Bill all dressed in purple, and John Podesta up there, you know, oh, she's so great, you know. Where's John Podesta today? You're not seeing a lot of public John Podesta, are you? I think that there is panic in their world. The Donna Brazil stuff is fascinating. Again, what's the left? I just think it's amazing. We're living in this time. It's incredible. It's incredible. The screws they may not be put to everybody, but man, we're seeing it. We're seeing things we've never seen before. The problem is that we don't have any completion. That's the problem. We don't have any completion. We've got all these programs up and running with no completion. But the Donna Brazil stuff is fascinating because now you're seeing the left turn on Donna Brazil. Oh, what's in it for her? Oh, look at her self-saving. Where is she with all this? You know, it's like, come on. Deal with the information. This is what the left does. Just deal with the information. Deal with it. Say, you know what? She's right. What's wrong? You know, this is what I found. This is what I have found. Like there's a guy, and we're going to get to a lot of stuff today, but there's a guy on these 49er message boards that I go to. And for the most part, he's an okay guy. He's a teacher in California. But he's a dyed-in-the-wool socialist, right? He's a dyed-in-the-wool, you know, anti-business, anti-NFL, pro-union. He's a kind of an old-school lefty socialist who's teaching kids. Okay, do the math on that. But he'll never say that, for instance, and I'll give you an example. He'll never say they were right or you were right. And this is one of the peculiar peccadillos of the left. And I'll give you an example. This is a sports example. Colin Kaepernick, free agent. This is fresh. This is during the offseason when teams are putting together their teams. They're signing players. And the New York Jets decided that they were going to sign a 37-year-old quarterback by the name of Josh McCown, who had played for about 8 teams in the NFL. This guy, there is a Twitter photo of his daughter and his daughter's friends. And they all went out, and they were all wearing jerseys from the teams that Josh McCown had played on. And it was like, wow, that's a really clear representation of how traveled this guy is. And Josh McCown came out of a little school here in Texas. But he has always had a big arm, but he was a guy where he didn't make the best decisions on the field. He wasn't, sort of the brightest bulb on the field when it came to playing quarterback. Threw a lot of interceptions, got hit a lot, was on a lot of bad teams, and he had one really, really good season as a fill-in for an injured Jay Cutler in Chicago. So here he is, he's 37 years old, and the New York Jets, who don't have a quarterback, decide that they want to sign him, which is their right. So they go ahead and they sign him, and all of a sudden, all the Kaepernick people, oh my God, look at that. The Jets signed Josh McCown? Can you believe that? They signed Josh McCown? Oh my God. Oh my God, how could they do that? He's 37 years old. He doesn't have a winning record, blah, 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 blah. And Colin Kaepernick lives in New York City. He's right there. He's right in their own backyard. Oh, I can't believe this. This is terrible. This is horrible. This is a miscarriage of justice. Well, guess what? Josh McCown is doing really, really well. He's like the 8th ranked quarterback in the National Football League. The Jets, who were supposed to go 0-16, are actually in the playoff race. And I watched Josh McCown play the other night. He was really good. He's not making the stupid decisions anymore. At 37, he's kind of figured the game out. He's a late bloomer. But do you think that anybody on the Kaepernick side of the equation, any sports writer, any news pundit is going to say, you know what, I was wrong. I was wrong about Josh McCown. Right? And there's this undertone, too, of racism, too, which kind of pissed me off. It's like, oh, they signed an old white guy in favor of Colin Kaepernick. Okay, we know who the Jets owner is. That's Woody Johnson, who's kind of unusual and strange. But he's also a buddy of Donald Trump's. Donald Trump gave him an ambassadorship, right, to, I don't know, was it Ireland or Scotland or someplace in Europe. So of course, he's a buddy of Trump. Trump basically said, sign Josh McCown and don't sign Colin Kaepernick. But nobody says, I was wrong. They don't. This is not part of the program. I was especially. Do people on the right say they were wrong? Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I think here's what I think. Again, we're trying to get rid of the left-right paradigm, but I really feel like our brains have been compartmentalized by neuroplasticity, vaccines, and conditioning. And trust me on this. And so what happens is we have this bicameral schism in our culture, in our society, and it happens in our heads. It's up there. It's in a physical portion of the brain. Okay? If somebody is wrong, or they need to admit the fact, hey, I was wrong on this, it's kind of like the most human thing you can do. But I've consistently found on that side of the ledger sheet that it does not happen. It doesn't happen, and same thing with this guy in California. You can point something out, right? Like for instance, Mark Garagos, the guy who represented Scott Peterson and Michael Jackson, and some pretty dubious characters. Although Michael Jackson's not really that dubious, but Scott Peterson certainly was. He decided he was going to become Colin Kaepernick's lawyer, and he's going to go take on the NFL. And in a typical bluster, legal bluster, Garagos says, I guarantee you Colin Kaepernick will be on a team in 10 days. I guarantee it. Well, he's not. He's not on a team. So what does Garagos do now? What does he say? Well, I was wrong. I thought he was going to be on a team, but apparently the NFL had other ideas. They don't get that. And I brought it up on this message board, and the guy said, well, Josh Johnson happened. Well, because Josh Johnson signed with the Houston Texans and not Colin Kaepernick. But he didn't say, hey, yeah, you're right. Mark Garagos was patently wrong, wasn't he? It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. So what is admitting that you were wrong or you had the wrong take? What does admitting it do? It creates a sense of humility, right? We're not perfect. It keeps us humble. And what does being humble do to us? It keeps you open, right? When you lose humility, you lose your sense of being open. Your channel shuts down. Your channel shuts down when you're not. This is when arrogance and pride and ego narrows the channel completely. So it cuts you off from experience. It cuts you off from learning. It cuts you off from connection. It cuts you off for greater possibilities. That you yourself are not the center of the universe, right? This is what happens. And admitting that we're wrong and apologizing in a way that is really empowering, or apologizing in a way that's really upfront and truthful can be very empowering. Of course, as I go through this on my show, I am almost invariably tested. Walk your talk, brother. Okay, I'm up for it. I'm open to it. If something occurs in my life, it would be the first time I've had to say that I was wrong. But that's what keeps us in the game. That's what keeps us fluid. All right, so let's continue to break this thing down. This is where it gets very, very interesting, okay? We've got this new learning that's taking place, and we're all a part of it. We're all being tweaked. We're all being tweaked in a way that I believe is positive. I don't believe that we are participating in a Borg hive mind. No, that is the AI version of where we're arcing towards. No, this is a very different version, and I'm liking this version a lot, to be honest with you. It's very interesting. And I'm clocking people all the time on social media. I'm clocking them on obviously Facebook being part of social media, but also on message boards. And I am watching the social IQ go up with this stuff, and it's going up in a way that's accelerating and pretty exciting, pretty darn exciting. Now, if we can only close the distance gap. Hold on. Excuse me. 3 is the magic number. If we can only close the distance gap and not have it be all virtual all the time, then we can, then that's really kind of a wonderful combination for success. Okay, let's get into this Vegas stuff. I want to read you what was sent to me by William. I put it on my Facebook page today. Okay, this is what he says. I'm going to read this in full. He says, I think you'll appreciate this perspective if you're not already aware of it. Subject, assassination attempt in Las Vegas. From, and this is public, so it's right here on my Facebook page, Joanne Moretti. Last night, I was on the radio discussing the Las Vegas shooting and the connection to what is happening in Saudi Arabia. They're connected. I'll start at the beginning. There was King Faisal, who had a son, Prince Al Walid bin Talal. Okay, let's just break him down for a second. He's 62 years of age, born in Riyadh, and he's a Pisces, born March 7th. A Pisces. I believe this guy was probably the richest of the Saudi clan. Okay, the Saudi. But he's also a Wahhabist. Now, here we go. I'm going to just break that down for you. Educated at Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs, Menlo College. How about that? Menlo College. I know where that is. That's near Palo Alto. Interesting. I used to drive by Menlo College all the time. Menlo College, and then he also went to Syracuse. 55 years old, 62 years old, born March 7th, 1955. And he is a Pisces. Okay, here we go, just breaking that down for you. Okay. There was King Faisal who had a son.
There was, once upon a time, there was a king named Faisal. He had a son named Prince Al-Walid bin Talal. King Faisal took ill and named his brother Salman as king in his place. King Salman named his son an heir to the throne, instead of his brother's son, Prince Al-Walid.
Al-Walid is a Wahhabi. Salman, a Sunni. Wahhabi is extreme Islam. Yes, indeed it is. Wahhabist, Salafist. Because that's where the House of Saud began its theocratic rule, right? With Ibn al-Wahhab, who's the guy who became the first extreme cleric in Saudi Arabia and in Islam in general, extreme. Okay. Salman wanted a more modern, non-extreme Islam for Saudi. That's why he named his own son as heir. Okay, what's interesting is that there's a couple things going on. Al-Walid bin Talal is a baby boomer. I have to point that out. Born in 1955, he's a baby boomer. Doesn't matter if he's born in the United States or Riyadh, he's a baby boomer. Salman is what? He's a millennial. So we have this clash of the millennial and the baby boomer happening in the House of Saud. If you are a millennial, you're probably going, hey, that's my bro. Salman, the soul man, give me 5. So this is interesting. From an astrological standpoint also, what are they? They're opposites. Salman's a Virgo. He's born August 31st, which is, okay. It's a few days, just a few days after the eclipse. But that eclipse happened on King Salman, or Crown Prince Salman's son. Just a few degrees, right? So 31st, what are we talking? August 31st, hold on a second, let me just drill down in here. So it's the 28th, the 23rd. So we're talking, what about 5 degrees Virgo, 6 degrees Virgo, right around there. So it was kind of around his sun. It wasn't completely on his sun, but kind of around his sun. I'd like to look at his chart. Okay, so here we go. So we got a Virgo versus a Pisces in this family feud. In Las Vegas, here's where it gets really interesting. In Las Vegas, Prince Al-Walid owned the upper floors of the Mandalay Bay Resort, including the 32nd floor. We talked about that yesterday. That was one of the points of shooting at the Strip. I say one of the places because the witnesses were all correct. There were other locations too. The Mandalay Bay has a helipad on the roof. That is important because that was the escape route after the carnage. Paddock was a pilot. He was also a gun runner between the Philippines and the U.S., hence Mary Lou Danley. Okay? She's part of it. He was running guns for Prince Al-Walid. What's been going on in the Philippines? They've had what? They've had ISIS uprisings in the Philippines. Now, I am not pushing the Islamophobic thing, but it's a fact that this has been going on in the Philippines. And Duterte had been going after these guys because they're trying to get in and begin this kind of aggressive point of conversion inside the Philippines. That's been happening. So getting guns to the Philippines for these guys has been important. Just look at the news, go back and see from about 6-7 months ago what was happening in the Philippines with quote unquote. So also, why is ISIS in the Philippines? Right? Why are they there? Well, here we go. And how are they becoming a functional unit? Who's arming them? All right. So here we go. We keep going. That was one of the points of the shooting at the Strip. I say one of the places because witnesses were all correct. There were other locations too. The Mandalay Bay has a helipad on the roof. That is important because that was the escape route after the carnage. Paddock was a pilot. He was also a gun runner for the Philippines and the U.S. He was running guns for Prince Al-Walid. Paddock didn't win at the casino. Those millions came from smuggling. On the night of the attack, I found out that King Solomon was in Las Vegas. I didn't know that part until after the show, and I received a missing piece of info. Salmon was at the Tropicana. Okay, you remember that video, that strange video? It's like, how did this happen? Or what was this thing all about? Which was kind of happening concurrently with the concert. If you've seen the video, it's these guys walking through the Tropicana, and they've got guns. They've got big automatic weapons, and they've got flak jackets on, and they're going back and forth. They're going back and forth. Now, I'm not sure if that guy is King Salman. That's part of that little, entourage that's trying to get that person out of that hotel. I don't know if that's the case or not. It could be this is what's being inferred. So let's just say for the sake of the flow and this piece of information I'm sending along that that's the case. Okay, that guy in the video is Salman. All right, here we go. The FBI knew Paddock was running guns. They were tipped off. They didn't know there was going to be an assassination attempt on Salman by Al-Walid just down the Strip. Paddock brought the guns, as he usually did. Instead of getting paid off, this time he was killed. Okay, we're assuming now that he was killed, that was Paddock. We're assuming this. It's part of this narrative. We have to question everything, by the way. But this is interesting. He was victim number 1. The guns were used to shoot at the country music venue. That was to create chaos and distract from the real target over at the Tropicana. Al-Walid's assassins shot from Mandalay Bay, but they also were at the Tropicana trying to kill Salman. That explains why there were shooters on the ground as well as in the air. Remember the vids of the helicopter flyover? They're out there. I asked why a helicopter would be there when there was a shooter high up. It wasn't news or cops. It was the assassins who ran up the stairs to the roof from the 32nd floor. Remember, they sealed the door to the stairwell. Paddock had access to the service elevator because the boss said he could use the elevator. Nobody questioned him. Meanwhile, the assassination attempt on Salman failed. Now we are seeing the result of the failed attempt. It was not only an assassination attempt and terror attack, but an attempted coup in Saudi. This is why everyone shut up in Las Vegas. The response is still ongoing. Las Vegas was definitely a terror attack. Paddock was the gun owner. Al-Walid, the owner of the suites, who was behind all of it, all the witnesses citing multiple shooters told the truth. There were shootouts along the Strip and in Mandalay Bay and Tropicana hotels. The reason nobody is talking is it's not over yet. Okay, so this is an ongoing thing, ongoing situation. Now, Trump has not said a whole lot. And you know that Trump knows what went on in Las Vegas. I guarantee you he's not in the dark. Now, there may be bits and pieces of misinformation or disinformation that comes in his direction. But he knows what went down in Las Vegas, which is why he hasn't said much about it. The situation is definitely hot. It is still hot. And it's going to be fascinating to see what happens if this gets fleshed out. Now, the other thing too is I've also seen, and this is something that you have to take into account as well. That I've seen videos of Las Vegas that are completely incongruent. I see people that are standing around with their cell phones, and there are people, who are getting triage, but it doesn't really look like they're getting triage. I mean, it has all the markings of a drill being run simultaneously. Now, if that's the case, so perhaps we have to wire that in there. We have to wire the fact that there might have been a drill going on at the same time. Okay, and if that's the case, then was the drill being used and called for in concert with the idea that Salman would be there? It would be yet another level of distraction. I don't know. You see, this is where we have to really begin to expand our thinking and be able to connect dots that are really, it's almost like an inconjunct in astrology. This is the process it's the feeling across from one 150-degree aspect to another, okay? That's not to say that we attach to it, because when we attach to things like that, that's where things get, that's where you wind up saying, well, I was wrong, okay? And I've had a few of those moments, trust me. So what we do is, we're teasing open the possibility of these connections, which are abstractions. But it's important to do that, because if we don't do that, if we can't do that, then we're limited by the scope of it. Now, sometimes, as Freud says, a cigar is just a cigar, right? Sometimes a cigar is just, but sometimes it's not. In many cases with these events, the level of complexity with them, it could be really astounding, totally astounding. And we may never really figure out what happened in Sandy Hook, although a lot of us have our ideas, right? But I'll tell you what's interesting is the process. It's the process. It's the audacity to be able to think outside the box. And to think outside the box in a way where there's still some empathy and compassion. I'll give you an example. Let's move to Texas and this thing that just happened in Texas. It stinks to high heaven. Totally stinks to high heaven. Again, we've got inconsistencies, incongruencies, totally stinks to high heaven. There's a video of this woman who says that the gunshots came from the roof and there was a shotgun. What the hell is that all about? Okay, it was not about the guy walking through the front door. Then you have the pastor who's not there, his wife who's not there, and you have this Devin Kelly character who has absolutely zero past. Now the FBI can't get in and decrypt his phone. They can't open his phone. For whatever reason. How does that happen? Do you think some schlum like Devin Kelly has the ability to have a sophisticated piece of software on his phone so that nobody can get in and decrypt it? And this is the FBI. This is what's coming out. Now, that could be a smokescreen. Maybe they are decrypting it and they're telling us we can't. We don't know, right? But we have to, again, factor this information. But it's starting to stink to high heaven. So, again, I've got two people on Facebook who both know somebody who had 10 people die, with a whole family getting wiped out. So what do you do with that information, okay? And I'm trying to be compassionate here and have some empathy. I don't want to just say, that's bullshit, horseshit, nobody died there, You do that and there's a whole other kind of, program being run. So what we have to do now is we say, well, that's interesting. How well do you know this person? And how well does that person really know what went on in that town and with that family? Because we have to be able to ask these questions. They're important. They're really important questions to ask. So I'm being respectful, saying, you know what? That's terrible. You know, that's awful. But at the same time, how do we address these other pieces? How do we address these incongruencies? Where does that fit into the fact that you know somebody who died here, or you know somebody who knows somebody who died? And this is not the first time, by the way, that this has happened. I've had other people, in some cases I believe it's true. And I'm not saying this isn't true with Texas. Don't get me wrong here. But what I'm saying is that we have to be able to be in a place where we retain a little bit of our empathy and our compassion. Go, okay, that's really awful. But you don't mind if I continue to dig a little bit, because there's something about this that doesn't feel right. That's a really interesting position to take, and it's not easy, because we want to go half-cocked and go, yeah, look at this, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. I call bullshit, right? And we can't be that dogmatic at times, because it blinds us in certain aspects. I've had to learn this. And there are times where it's just bang, spot on, you know it, there it is. You can see it, you can feel it. You know, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's a duck, right? That's it. And there are other times where you got to play center field and go, okay, let's see what's happening here. And every time now we have an event, I just wait. I just like, okay, what's going to be the first 24 hours? Not the first 24 minutes. Before, I used to be able to get the first 24 minutes. And stuff would be so incongruent. What's this about? What's going on here? This makes no sense. They said this at 20 minutes, and then they rewrite the script 2 hours later. You used to be able to catch the media in their lie within the first half hour of an event. Now you can't. Now you've got to wait. You've got to sift through things. So we have this thing in Texas now, which is another ongoing event, right? It's an ongoing. So and we still have Santa Rosa in Northern California. God bless those people. That's a real tragedy. You want a real tragedy? You want a real tragedy? You want to see some real shit that happened? That's a tragedy. Those people, those homes, those cars, they didn't fake that, okay? And so we wind up talking about these other events, but we're not really dealing with Santa. So I don't want to get too far off track. But we've got this thing now down in Texas, and they want to use this event so badly to rope in the gun laws and advocate for more gun control. And even Republicans are starting to come over, because it happened in this place that is sacrosanct, the church. Well, I don't know if you've spent any time checking out that pastor. That guy gives me the creeps. He gives me the creeps. And when I first saw him, when I first saw some of those videos, and I looked on the inside of that church, I said, "This is not a church, and this guy's not a real pastor. There's something else going on here." I mean, this guy is either a Satanist, or he belongs to one of our favorite secret societies, maybe both. There's something not right about that guy. There's just something, there's a vibe thing. It's a total vibe thing. And even with his wife, who went up and read that address, or and by the way, there's a video where the whole thing is pre-scripted. The guy hands her a cell phone, which has the script on it she's supposed to read off of. How about that? It's in the video. Watch the interview. Watch the interview. It's like she can't even talk about what happened to this daughter of theirs, who looks like she was adopted. Doesn't even look like their daughter. And I'm not casting any aspersions upon the daughter or whoever these people are. But this is just not a match. She looks like it was a special needs kind of kid, and seemed very sweet. But there's even some other weird stuff around that, right? There's like a photo of her with some other kids, and she looks totally photoshopped in. There's different kind of light spectrum between the background and the foreground. Again, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with high strange, high weird. This Willendorf guy, who's like the big hero. That guy, he's got zero emotion. He's another guy who seems like programmed and atomic. The whole thing is just so bizarre. So bizarre. But what are we doing? We're using our metacritical faculties. And we get on with our lives. We do our thing. We continue to raise our kids, go to our jobs, stay healthy. But this is part of the acceleration process. It is part of the acceleration process. It is part of, people talk about ascension. I've never been a big ascension guy. But I do believe in the singularity, okay? I do believe in the singularity. But I also believe that there is an organic analog version of the singularity where we surpass our own level of intelligence. How about that? Yeah. That's what I'm an advocate for, and I believe it's coming. I believe it's coming. We are in that accelerated phase. And all this, because this is Uranian, right? All this chaos is Uranian. And what do we get with, I'm kind of a big fan of Uranus, I have to say. Because I've always been better with improvisation than having to sit down and like learn something by rote. That's never been my forte. So Uranus is my pal. It's not the highest planet in my chart. Pluto is, by the way. But Uranus, I've got a Uranus-Jupiter trine. So I'm kind of cool with Uranus, right? So we are in Uranian times, and Uranus is chaos. Uranus is the thunderbolt of change. But guess what? If you can roll with it, and you can deal with the chaos, it becomes really creative. Really, really creative energy. So, Ordo Ab Chao, right? Ordo Ab Chao. We have our own version of it. We have our own personal patent out of chaos order. That's our version of it, not out of order chaos. Ordo Ab Chao. No. Out of chaos order. We have our own version of it. So remember, whether it's the chaos of your personal life or whether it's the chaos of the collective theater, you have the ability to improvise and dance through this thing. And if there's anything that you can learn about it or from it, that's one of the big things. And remember, Uranus is genius too. It is the flash of genius. It is the insight. And we are sharing these flashes of genius on a collective level. And I love to share stuff that people bring to my attention. So William, thank you very much for sharing that, bringing it up. Are there other pieces that could be part of it? Absolutely. But I think that's a big chunk in what we're witnessing with the takedown, the Vegas takedown. This is like Goodfellas, right? Goodfellas meets the Godfather in Las Vegas. Casino meets the Godfather in Las Vegas. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating times. Hang on to your, tighten your seatbelts. Don't get tossed on the roller coaster. I actually knew somebody that happened to. I met him one time. Want to hear the story? Crazy story. So I used to work with this guy. Nice guy, for the most part. Nice guy. He's smart. He worked out of the New York office for the business that I worked at, and he and his girlfriend. I met his girlfriend. She was actually quite lovely. Had a nice vibe. Whatever. They were these roller coaster thrill seekers. And what they would do is they would figure out how to mess with the bar when they come down, when the roller coaster comes, that bar that comes down the roller coaster. And so that they could get some play between themselves in the seat in the roller coaster and the bar. And then what they would do is they would get to that point where there would be a big drop and they'd get airborne and they'd be like in 0G. That was their thing. They would try to get to those 0G moments where they were like suspended, without gravity. And then one day, apparently, the bar was too high and they were in their thrill-seeking mode, and his girlfriend got thrown from the roller coaster and died. And that's when it came out that they were these thrill seekers. And there was no lawsuit or anything that was filed against the amusement park. So make sure that your safety belt and your safety harness is snugly fit. as we go through the chaos of the roller coaster in the post-Trump or the Trump era. Dance with it. All right. This is Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to 15 Minutes of Flame. Went a bit over today. 46 minutes. That's about right? 46 minutes or so. That's good enough for the old attention span. All right. I'll be back tomorrow with the Friday Forecast. That happens at noon, by the way. It does not happen at 9:11 a.m. Central Standard, noon tomorrow. I'll be back right here on Spreaker. Of course, you'll be able to find these shows over on YouTube. Check out my websites. Over on YouTube, if you're listening to this, like the video. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. All these other people on YouTube do it, so maybe I should do it too. I don't have a Patreon account. But if you do feel like, and there have been great response to people who have supported me and do donate on a monthly basis. Sometimes it's $5, sometimes it's $10, whatever. If you feel like it, and keep the kitty up so I can continue to do these shows, that's great. If you feel like doing it, you go to my website, robertphoenix.com, and I've got a PayPal link in there. So if the spirit moves you, let it groove you. All right. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix.